Hey, good morning, brothers.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are y'all?
I'm great on this wonderful Palm Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
It is.
Good.
It's beautiful outside today, most certainly.
Somebody giving you gifts off camera?
Yes.
See, it's just a stream of people
Yes.
walking in that office, just giving him stuff,
Let's see.
bearing gifts.
Little Dove chocolate with a note. So
nothing says love like Dove chocolate.
Hey, look who's got a profile.
Yeah,
Good morning, Cody.
See, those who cast stones get one also.
Very
good
morning, Samuel.
Oh, goodness. So, hey, good morning from New Mexico. Good morning to you, Jason. Glad that you're here. So
now he really loves us because isn't New Mexico? Isn't that an hour earlier, or is that an hour later?
I think
it's an hour earlier.
Might be the same time now.
Oh, really?
Oh, are we now?
I think.
I figured they'd be in mountain. We're central,
and
I think it's an hour earlier.
Yeah, I think you're right. Because isn't it Arizona doesn't do the time change.
Arizona doesn't do the time change. Yeah. So anywho's, well, today is Communion Sunday, and this is going to be a much more interactive communion than last year's Palm Sunday communion, if you recall. Yes. It was the first ever 99.8% online communion service.
It's crazy now looking at like Facebook memories and seeing there was one that pulled up this morning, and it was the announcement for the county that the second case had hit a year ago. And now I'm just like, it's just crazy. You know, you look back and see what things are like and, you know, the gift of hindsight, but it's nuts, man. I'm excited for it. It looks like Truck Driver Jimmy's got shoulder jokes.
He can only stone with the left arm.
Yeah.
But some say he throws like a girl with his left arm. So no offense intended to girls.
Yeah, there's some of those girl softball pitchers, they can throw way harder than I can, for sure.
You see that highlight of I can't remember who she was, but she was playing, I guess, center field, and she just laid out and caught a line drive and just saved a couple runs, saved probably a triple. It was I'll have to find it and send it to you. It was amazing.
I watch that stuff and I'm like, yeah, I couldn't. If I tried that, I wouldn't be able to get up and walk again.
I like my dad. He's double dipping. He must need double Jesus. He's in the worship center watching us, waiting on me. So there's your weird, scenario.
Cody's coming back to town.
That way you can tell everybody when you're walking over.
Yeah,
that's right.
See what he's doing.
Cody's coming back to town in April, so we'll look forward to seeing you at church, Cody.
Oh, man, isn't that when I'm on vacation?
Oh, yeah, we're closing. Close
that Cody, perhaps you've heard there's a virus.
There's Mom.
Good morning, Florida.
Yes, good to see our Florida family. And today we're introducing our new teaching platform to the in-person Sunday school class in the worship center. I'm looking forward to that. So we're looking at Good Friday today. We're going to talk about motivations and attitudes, and it's going to be good. I'm excited, and I hope folks will come if they're able. It'll be good.
They were already crowding up inside there before I got out.
Awesome.
Yeah. They're like, "Where's Jimmy?" I'm like, "He'll be here. He'll be here soon." They said we got chocolate to give him.
That's right. Let's see. I'm counting 7 so far, 8. So okay.
Oh,
I got the security camera on them so I can see them.
Man, it was nice yesterday. Donworth and I were doing some of the lights in the youth building, and we got some folks out here working on the grounds, and it was just, and Jimmy was in here trying to download that sermon, and it was just nice that so many people on campus.
Just trying to find that really fast internet so I can get that download. So
yeah, it looked good walking up this morning and seeing the sort of the flowers and some new shrubs. And
one of the real awesome things about that ministry yesterday was one couple we met just almost a year ago. We met them at the front end of COVID through the digital ministry. Mm-hmm. And they had hoped to serve, in this area a year ago, but things went the way they did. The other couple have been with us now, 3 months-ish, something like that. and they had said they would like to serve in this area. So I was able to connect the two. So they come here, and if you saw them out there yesterday, you'd think they'd known each other forever, but they really had never met each other in person until yesterday morning.
Well, they both knew what they were doing out there,
Yeah.
and they didn't have people like, you and I getting in their
Yes.
way and saying, no, you can't plant that there or whatever.
Yes, I went out and took them water. That is the pinnacle of my landscaping expertise. So
Yeah, it was awesome.
Like I'm speaking in a fishbowl after music this morning because Travis is leading and everything is, at an octave that Jeff can't sing. It's crazy.
If Jeff can't sing it, then that means Jimmy and I can't sing it.
Oh, I can sing it. You just won't want to hear it. I mean,
Jeff, did you go all the way home after music practice to teach?
Oh yeah,
yeah. I'm at home, buddy.
I saw him running out of the worship center, and I thought,
no, you got everybody back on campus. There's no place for me anymore. I've got to.
You see, you're in your car. You got a little stand for your phone. Yeah. You just go through it. Now you're starting a new series today, correct?
I am. God's at War.
Sweet.
That's a good series. I haven't been through it in quite a while, but it's good.
Not as good as
you're feeling better today.
So. Not as good as what Jimmy's doing though. If somebody's trying to debate between going online or going in person, you better show up.
Hey, if you can be there in person, you need to be there in person.
See, here's the way you answer that debate: is you come in person because what Jeff is going to teach will be recorded, so you can have both.
There you go.
Well, there you go.
You don't have to choose one or the other. So that's just the way that we are.
If I'd known you're recording, I might have prepared.
Yeah. Now you want to watch some entertainment. I'm watching Ronnie try to pull the legs out on that little table because they have two buttons, and what do you do when you have both hands engaged? So what I do is I'll put my head underneath the crossbar of the leg, push the button, raise up like that, and it's very efficient. But Ronnie hasn't discovered that technique yet.
No, I'd pay to watch that. That'd be hilarious.
Not that I'm confessing to anything, but I'm hearing Benny Hill music going in my head. So,
anyway. Did I see you got a championship wrestling belt or something yesterday?
That was awesome. Yeah, Rob came by, and as you know, Rob is the aficionado of wrestling and the voice of wrestling in the Northeast Texas area. And I think it was one of the organizations gave him a championship belt, and it is nice. I mean, hand-tooled leather and the whole 9 yards. And he came by to share it with me and let me be a champion for a moment.
It's pretty awesome.
Weight to it as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. You can wear it, or you can use it as an instrument. You could knock someone in the head with that. So
that's awesome though. So they well,
Cody, I'll say amen. Yeah. I think that one's let the bodies hit the floor, isn't it?
Yeah, that's he's throwing the coats and they're all just flying backwards. It's kind of embarrassing a little bit.
My buddy Benny Hinn.
Oh, they got the video playing.
All right.
Jared was like, "What do I do?" I was like, "Just stand up and tell them there's a video that Jimmy wants them to watch."
That's right. All of y'all sit down and be quiet.
Just throw Jimmy's name out there. They'll hush up. Except for Scott, he'll keep talking.
Yeah.
But
Scott's sporting. It looks like a straw cowboy hat today.
So. Well, Scott looks like he is ready to go down to Miami. He looks like he has never been on vacation before, and he's a white dude. Went to Miami, woke up, and dressed the way he thinks you're supposed to dress for Miami. He's looking fresh.
But he can pull it off.
He's the only one who can pull it off.
Only one that can pull it off. Yeah. He looks good.
So I'm watching the video. I can see the video in the center monitor playing. So we are big market, big time.
They're not like throwing tomatoes or anything, are they?
No. Everybody's paying reasonable attention, so it's good.
Truck driver Jimmy hopefully can make there. I saw him post that he hopes to kind of be back on his feet, so to speak, in a month or so, 4 or 5 weeks, something like that.
Well, he wants to be driving ready in 4 weeks.
Do your rehab, man. Work that shoulder.
That's right.
Right.
Cody's giving us commentary on Ronnie wrestling with the table.
Yeah, no, he got it done, so he's good. He's good. So.
Back to his Route 44 Coke.
That's right.
Ronnie won't get a belt for that either.
No. No. So for those that may be with us online and you can be here in person next hour, I want to invite you. We will be observing the Lord's Supper and got a good message, or at least I think it's good, but we're going to look at the call of communion, talk about what is communion about and why do we do it, and it's going to be good. So we have our children's church and nursery back. Last week, Josh, you were saying children's church was packed.
Oh yeah, they were packed because they got those Awana kids too, and they were giving out prizes, and we were all done, and we went out there. I was like, "Where are my kids at?" They go out there, and they're still going. I'm like, "Hey, your church is over, y'all." Like, usually it's the opposite. Yeah, they were having a blast. So hopefully, I know they'll be having a good time today too. In today's lesson in youth, one of the game involves a banana when you've got to take it and try to pass it to the next person with using only your feet.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of want to be in there and see the mess that they're going to make with that.
Yeah, I was wondering why you were walking around with a bag of bananas.
Yeah, it's not usually my breakfast go-to.
Maybe you were having some low
potassium. No, that's for youth games.
I remember once back in the day we had a contest. I don't remember what the contest was, but the loser, which could have been me or could have been one of the youth, had to eat a banana, peel and all.
Ooh.
Yeah, we cut off, the very ends. And now, A, I won the wager. B, I've been begged many, many times, oh, well, do I have to do this? And the answer is yes. You made a covenant. This is what happens when you lose. And that young guy got the entire banana down for about 90 seconds.
Oh, no.
Yep. Now, I may be a sinner, but I was laughing. And that young man never stepped up to take a wager again. Cody knows Jimmy don't play. If we sign contracts, we sign contracts. So I remember when Cody's name was on a contract, Jeff.
I remember it. We couldn't get it over the finish line, but that's all right.
Oh, is that the head shaving thing?
Yeah. I just got to tell you, I've never cheered against myself more than I did because I started feeling really bad about the potential. I really did. So the Lord allowed us to have both, and so He was very generous to us.
Yeah.
So, yeah, He was this close. And I know someone personally who was ready and able to stroke that check to close that gap.
That close.
That close.
Everybody who hasn't been with us for like 10 years is like,
Yeah,
what are they talking
Get
about?
the story, ask us about it, and we'll.
Yes.
Cody will be in town in April at some point, so maybe we can just have a visual as well.
That's right.
All right, boys.
$100,000 wonderful memory. So,
All right.
Y'all ready?
We'll see you guys soon.
All right. Okay. Good morning. So we're going to look at Gods at War by Kyle Idleman. If you want to pick up the book, you can. Here it is right here. And this particular book, I have gone through this before. I think it was like 2014 or so. So it's been quite a while. But this particular study helps believers recognize any false gods that they might have within their life, and for us to recognize that there is a war kind of going on within our hearts, if you will, our hearts and minds for what takes place or what has glory and control of our lives. And we talk about idols. We're just not talking about graven images made of precious metals or wood or stone or anything like that. We're talking about or we will talk about modern day idols, today that certainly at times, if we're not careful, will take precedent over our lives, will take precedent over our relationship with the Lord. So I'm going to try and do a couple things. I'm going to go pretty quick if I can. I've got 4 weeks. If I need to go to 5, I probably can. But we're going to do a quick intro, and then I'll try and cover sort of the first section. So I'll go pretty quick. Josh, there'll be a series of questions at the end. I'll probably pull you back in on, and we can kind of banter those back and forth if we have an opportunity. So over the next few weeks, we're going to look at false gods that maybe each of us allow on the throne of our lives. And the questions we'll ask ourselves is, what do we sacrifice things for? What do we sacrifice for our job? What do we sacrifice for our families? What do we sacrifice for our bank accounts? What do we sacrifice for ourselves? Whose applause do we seek? What are the things that we worry about? Those type of things. And we're all wired for worship, but often we end up valuing and honoring different idols or different things, whether it be money or food or sex or romance or success or notoriety or fame, whatever the case is. And those things end up taking a place of precedence in our life over an intimate relationship with God. Webster's definition of idolatry is the worship of idols or excessive devotion to or reverence for some person or thing. So an idol is anything that replaces God. The most prevalent form of idolatry in the Bible was, the worship of images that were thought to embody various pagan, deities, and God places a high significance on idolatry. In Exodus 20:3-5, it says, "You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself an idol in the form of anything in heaven, above, or on earth beneath, or in the waters below. You shall not bow down to them or worship them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, punishing the children for the sin of the fathers to the third and fourth generation of those who hate me." Idolatry extends beyond, like I said, the worship of stone or some image made out of gold or wood or whatever the case is. Of course, the price of wood today is kind of like gold. But our modern idols are, they can be many. They have a lot of variety to it. They can be a matter of the heart, if you will. So our pride can get in the way. Our self-centeredness can get in the way. Our greed, our love for things, love for success, love for notoriety. All these things can get in the way. But ultimately, all those things is a rebellion against God. And simply put, God hates idolatry. So let's look at just 2 or 3 case studies in this summary as we get started. Goals. We would say goals are a good thing. We can have goals of being debt free. We can have goals of success in our job. We can have goals of weight loss. We can have goals of education, whatever the case is. But if those things become those things can become so important in our lives that those things become the main driver of our life. So if your goal is to become debt free so you can do more for the Lord, we'll just say that. But if that goal starts taking place of your relationship with the Lord, then that becomes an idol in our life. We are sacrificing for that goal. In the beginning, maybe the goal was to meet some need, but some point along the way, it became bigger than our relationship with God. We might say, "Oh, I can't believe that my family or my friends or are making such a big deal about this decision that I'm making." Maybe your eyes roll. Maybe you don't think it's a big deal. In your mind, it's not a big deal, and it's not anything to worry about. But what I would caution us through the study is to maybe that instead of making a big deal out of nothing, could it be that we're making nothing out of a big deal? So the decisions that we make to pursue, whether they affect us physically or emotionally or spiritually or financially or mentally or whatever the case is, sometimes those decisions that we make, we have counted the cost, and we have decided that the pursuit of that goal or the pursuit of that decision is more important to us than the the pursuit of our relationship with God, to have an intimate relationship with God. And, a God is what we sacrifice for and what we pursue and what we put our time into. And sometimes with certain decisions we pursue, we're willing to pay more to accomplish that goal than we are to pursue our relationship with God. And if that happens, and that pursuit that we're after becomes our idol, if you will. So, as we look at, I'll kind of revisit Exodus 20. I am the Lord your God who brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. You shall have no other gods, before me. When God issued this command during the time of Moses, the people would have been very familiar. They were surrounded by gods. They spent 400 years in captivity, and there were false gods all over the place. But when we hear the statement, "You will have no other gods before me," sometimes we might think of a hierarchy. Sometimes we might think of maybe an org chart, this organizational hierarchy, about it. But and we need to put God first in our life. Well, that's good, but I'm going to challenge us over the next few weeks to kind of shift the way we think a little bit, and for us to realize that there are no places. There isn't a first place, a second place, and a third place in our relationship with God. God is not interested in competing with other things for his place in being number one in our life. So maybe a better translation that we'll talk about over the next several weeks, instead of "you will have no other gods before me," "you will have no other gods in my presence." So maybe a better translation instead of "before me" is "in my presence." So God is not interested in being one or first in your life. What he's interested in is you always being before him, or you're always being in his presence. Because the thing is, the reality is, if God is number one today, something else can overcome that number one spot. Whether it be some pursuit or some goal that we're after. So I'm going to challenge us over the next few weeks to not rank God, but let's have God first and foremost, because our pursuit of retirement or the next PhD or weight loss or success in your job or whatever, that can become more important than relationship with God, and God can actually become second. So the instant something takes the place of God, whatever it is, no matter how good it is, and I think Josh has touched on this before, there are some good things that we pursue, right? But no matter how good it is, when it becomes an end in itself rather than something for us to lay at the throne of God or the feet of Jesus, and give God glory for that particular thing, when someone or something places God in the position of glory in our lives, then that person or thing, by definition, has become God. Jason says, just downloaded the ebook for $6.49 on Google Books. Thank you, Jason. You can follow along. So, all right. So, kind of the first section that we'll talk about is to understand that there's a battleground of the gods taking place. So, whatever we search for, whatever we're chasing after, kind of reveals, the God that is winning in our particular life. So, kind of think about a scenario. You're out on a hike. It's a great gorgeous day. You hear some running water. You're going to walk over to it, and you see a lot of trash in the river. And it's been there a while, because it's kind of film on the water and maybe stinking up a little bit, maybe a little rot and decay going on. And you decide, hey, I'm going to clean this up. So you spend time and you clean that trash out. You see there might be some, on the bottom, so you're going to come back the next day with better tools. You come back the next day and you see that there's a lot more trash in the stream, and so you kind of wonder what's going on. So you kind of walk upstream a little bit, and you see that there's a garbage dump that's dumping a bunch of trash in the stream upriver. So all you did was just kind of release the water flow a little bit to allow that trash to kind of keep getting in your life. So I say that to say, we tend to treat a lot of symptoms in our lives instead of going upstream a little bit and finding, the source of that idol or that false god that's in our lives. So we're going to talk a little bit about make sure we get upstream from the symptom, and instead of dealing with the symptoms, that we actually deal with the source cleanup. This uh, concept of behavioral modification came out in the early 20th century, like 1950s or 60s, where there was a focus on a quick fix methodology where um, let's treat the symptoms. And it's not bad, because a lot of these things I'm going to talk about, I've said myself. So if you have an anger problem, what do? You need to count to 10, take a breath and count to 10. Well, that's good advice, but what is the root of the anger problem? If you have marital issues, well, you need to schedule a date and go on a date. We always see where our pastor is saying date our mate. That's not a bad thing, right? But what is the root of the problem of the marriage issues? Is it that you don't go on a date all the time, or is that you're kind of treating a symptom? If you're in debt, they say cut up credit cards. Well, what is the root of your debt problem? Maybe it's a lot of decisions along the way. So you kind of get the idea. Is we're going to kind of get upstream a little bit, and we're going to hopefully get a little real in this conversation. And you may be sitting there today and say, I don't really have any idols. I don't really know if this is for me. You'd probably be surprised at the things that we worship and which take the place of God in our lives, whether it be success or money or acceptance or whatever the case is. And we do a lot of things in order to achieve those things. So we'll take a walk upstream a little bit. So let's look at a couple examples. Maybe you have anxiety in your life. You worry. You might say, hey, I love the Lord. I don't really have any issues with idolatry. My problem is I just worry too much. Well, if we go upstream a little bit, what is causing us to worry so much? Perhaps there's and I'm really talking to myself here, maybe there's a need to control things. So maybe you're just a control freak. You've got to have every I dotted and every T crossed. You have a plan for everything, and everything has to, proceed according to plan. If it doesn't, then you start worrying about things. There's really nothing wrong with having a plan. There's nothing really wrong with wanting to kind of make sure things go well. But maybe our idol could be our comfort comes in our ability to control things. When things are out of our control, we kind of get worried and we kind of stress way too much. So maybe we have a need for control, and maybe we don't think that God is able to control that particular area that we want to have dominance over. So maybe if we get upstream a little bit, maybe our idol is, just, wanting to be in control of everything, wanting to have your say in everything. And if it doesn't go your way, well, you're not going to have a, particular good day. God very often calls us out of our comfort zones. And if you're one of those individuals that's, maybe type A like me and has an opinion on everything and likes to, control where things go and how things are done, when God calls you outside of that, there could be conflict between your nature and what God wants you to do. So as we go through this study, I want us to think about things that, again, aren't a graven image that's sitting out, in your bedroom that you bow down to, but what are the things that control you and consume you and affect you. Another thing is, maybe another example is, workaholic. I'm picking things that they were good examples in the books, but maybe things that I've struggled with. And maybe the symptom is, well, maybe I'll leave the office at 5 o'clock. Maybe I won't work as much on the weekend. Maybe I'll take 2 nights off, and not log on. With our phones and computers, we're always on, right? So that's a symptom. If we get upstream a little bit, maybe our drive of being a workaholic is really because we have a need for more materialistic things. Maybe we just have a drive for more, or maybe we have a problem with perfectionism. We're never happy with the way things are when we have to keep tweaking things over and over. So we can't make a decision and move on. Maybe it's just power. Maybe it's accumulating control because, power is something that drives us and is important to us. Perhaps it's just, the good old God of me, as Jimmy talks about, Jimmyism, right? Maybe we want to have this legacy of the things that I have accomplished and not really what God has accomplished. So we'd rather focus on, those things instead of maybe what God wants us to focus on. And that's our heart, right? That's the real motivation behind, the things that we do. So there's heart disease is nicknamed, the silent killer. And a lot of times doctors treat the symptoms and not the root of the problem, whether it be dizziness or shortness of breath or, being lightheaded or, swelling or, things like that. But there's this arteriogram that can happen, but it's kind of an invasive thing where they put dye in your blood and they can see where blockage is and all this kind of stuff. So I want us to do a spiritual arteriogram this morning. And Josh, this is where I kind of want you to kind of come back on. And I know it's a couple minutes early, but let's kind of walk through some of these things. So let's think of these questions as we prepare for this study. There's a battleground that's taking place within our hearts. And, the heart is kind of the center of our emotions, the center of who we are. And so we use the heart as, an example of kind of who we are as individuals. But so these questions is sort of that dye that's going to be injected into our bloodstream and maybe reveal or locate any problem areas that we might have. And again, let's not sugarcoat this. These could be areas of idolatry because it has a greater place in our life than our relationship with the Lord. So
Right.
The first question is, what disappoints you? Disproportionate disappointment reveals that we have placed hope or longing in something other than God. So I don't know, Josh, things that, what kind of things disappoint you? Do you get disappointed because, somebody doesn't come see you on a Tuesday afternoon up at the church or
No, I get disappointed probably way more than I need to whenever I am a planner, and sometimes, want control too much. But when things don't go according to plan, when I've thought something out and there's a hiccup, even if it's, I'm planning something out and then somebody's trying to do stuff with family and then somebody's late or somebody's taking too long and it messes everything else up. I probably get to, I get disappointed when that happens. I get disappointed when, I guess I don't get my way,
Yeah.
And I think it's because, or at least in my head, the way I justify it, my disappointment in that is that I usually don't kind of push for my way that often. I mean, you know how it is. You got 3 kids, the baby kind of rules the household as far as what you do. And then you got the other ones. And I'm, we usually just try to do things that they want to do, that kind of stuff. And so when I do have hey, I want to do this and it doesn't work out, I get disappointed more often than not. So those things probably are pretty revealing.
And as we talk about that, and if we're disappointed a lot, and it's not bad in and of itself to if you plan something you want it to go well, right? And I'm not talking about you, but if we struggle with disappointment quite a bit, if we struggle with circumstances, controlling. I think I've said this before. I've got a sticky note in front of my Bible that says discouragement comes when we allow circumstances to control us. So, the circumstances of life happen.
Right.
But if we're always disappointed and we're always discouraged, let's get upstream a little bit and figure out why. Or is it because we want to be seen as successful in the eyes of others? And I'm not saying that's why you do it. I'm saying if we struggle with this, that can be one of the things. And if that's the case, then we need to kind of get up and say, okay, well, I think myself is more important than anything else. So that's just kind of one area. So ask yourself, what are the things that disappoint me? Another thing is, what do we complain about the most? And you might want to ask someone else, it's in your life and say, what do I complain about the most? And, this is how we express things, right? And it might be, like I said, good to ask someone else. But if we constantly complain about our financial situation, maybe money is more important to us than anything else. if we constantly complain about a lack of respect in the workplace, maybe what others think about us is more important than our relationship with the Lord. If we're constantly concerned about, kind of what we're doing, or I don't know, I'll say we have opening day next week, so I'll say the Texas Rangers. If I'm constantly worried about what my team is doing, maybe sports is an idol or a god in our life. What we complain about reveals what really matters to us. So I would encourage us this week. What are we complaining about? What do we not like? And then can we get upstream a little bit and see if there's something else that we need to, address other than whether or not someone likes us in the office or not. So that might be one area. Where do you make financial sacrifices? That's another question. If we could, well, it's actually easy now with online banking, right? You can actually take a look at where your spend is and objectively determine what matters most to you, because where you spend your money is what really matters most to you. And again, if we don't want to, if we're not free with our resources, and I won't just say our money, our time, our talent, and things like that, what motivates us, to do things for the Lord or not do things for the Lord is I'll do something for God if there's nothing else really to do. Do we have those? We need to have those type of conversations. The other one here, and I'll get your input on this one, is what worries you? Could be losing your job. Is it does it consume you, or losing a loved one, or spending too many days alone, or I want to make sure I get respect, or I want to be loved, or whatever the case is, right? Whatever keeps us up at night has a potential to be an idol, in our life.
Yeah, I think that, I'm hearing a lot of these things, and it might be just because it's something that I struggle with, but a lot of this comes down to control to me. Is, the tighter you want to hold on to things, why do we worry? Well, we worry about things usually we can't control.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if people do worry about things they can't control, then go do something about it. But, a lot of times people worry about things they can't control. They might worry about the stock market, or they might worry about, what's going on, the pandemic, whatever it is. And the same thing with the financial sacrifices. It's interesting because we have a society that we built this message that, you deserve the newest and latest thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, get what makes you happy. We even have the term, what is it, shopping therapy or something like that. There's a term for
Mm-hmm.
It's good, just go, oh, you're feeling bad, just go and buy a bunch of stuff.
Go buy something.
It'll make you feel better. But so we've normalized all that, and yet, the average American's however many tens of thousands of dollars in debt. But then we're also told, well, you need to save for retirement. You need to live your life this way or whatever. And yet we haven't kind of made a bigger deal about using our money to benefit other people, and money, because as a country, we're way wealthier than we're so wealthy that one of our therapies is to go and buy things. That just tells us as a country what we are. When we know how our money can stretch not only here but overseas, what one American dollar can buy in some of these other countries. I think with Compassion International, I know my parents have sponsored a kid through there for years and years and years. And it's a few, it's $25 or $50 or whatever it is a month, basically pays for everything this kid needs. You know what I mean? And you can give your kids $50 and send them to the movies these days.
I know, and they still owe money.
Yeah.
And that's a great segue into where is your sanctuary? Where is, when things aren't going well in your life, what do you retreat to? Where do you go? Do you go, and eat a gallon of ice cream, or do you, and again, ice cream isn't bad in moderation. Do you go shopping, as you said? Do you go to a friend? Do you escape in Netflix? Do you, go to social media? Where do you go when things are going bad? Who do you go for? Where do you go for your emotional rescue? And Psalms 46 talks about God as our refuge and our strength, a very present help in trouble. Therefore, we will not fear, though the earth shall change and though the mountains slip into the heart of the sea. And sometimes we gloss over this, and I don't want us as we go through this study to say, okay, I'll let go a little bit, or I won't eat as much ice cream when I go to the fridge or whatever the case is, because where we go, where our sanctuary is, needs to be God first. Again, a blizzard every once in a while is probably a good thing, but we need to learn something about ourselves and see how things are between God and us when life gets hard, because life happens, right? And if we are always going to our comfort zone, which is the things that we can control, or the things that give us joy outside of the Lord, well, we may have to ask ourselves about our relationship with our Savior. Not that you don't have it, but maybe it could be a deeper, intimate relationship, because when life gets hard, it always amazes me when Christians retract from the church, when they pull back from other believers when life gets hard. That's when we should lean in, right? And I always just want to beat my head up against the wall when life gets hard and they disappear. When life gets hard, you need to be surrounded by other believers. You need to be right in the middle of God's will, right? So we'll touch on that as we go down the road. And then on the flip side of that, what infuriates us, why does that person in traffic that doesn't let you in have so much control over you?
Right.
Do you get upset because you're too competitive, or you get upset because, maybe someone doesn't, give you the respect that you deserve, or maybe they make fun of you, embarrass you, or whatever the case is. All of us have a hot button or two or three. As we focus on that, if we're always finding ourselves angry or infuriated, let's get upstream a little bit and kind of figure out, okay, what's going in our lives that this person in traffic, this stranger who I'll probably never see again, has so much control over me. We've all been there, right? They won't let you in, or they cut you off, or the person that flies up in the left-hand lane and then cuts over. I've done all those things, right?
It is tough. I think we have a lot of fury, and it's easy. I think it's because they're there, but there's this distance between you and them. Like they're it's kind of like on social media. You see the profile, somebody says something, you say something back, whatever it is. It's easy. I feel like it's easier to get infuriated at somebody when you're not staring them in the eyes, you're not sitting across from them. There is something about seeing them and recognizing they're another human being that I think for most of us, that doesn't mean you can't get infuriated, but like if there's a stranger at a coffee shop expressing an opinion that I disagree with, I'm not going to like yell at them. That's ridiculous. But that can happen on social media in the blink of an eye, because it's almost like they're not people. There's something about the digital screen and the keyboard that we're sitting behind that kind of removes the humanity of whoever we're talking about. And instead it's just, it's just their words or their opinions or whatever it is, and we're just attacking it. And, there's a lot of damage that can happen with that. And I think that if we're not careful, we can get all wrapped up into, and that's what I was saying about the car thing. It's like, we know there's a human being in that car, but we can't interact with them the way that I can sitting across from somebody. So it's almost like, they're dehumanized and so many different ways. And I think, we've got to find a way to inject humanity back into our dialogue.
Yeah. And if we can't do that, if we have a problem with that, again, what is that's a symptom, maybe a bigger problem, right? So, and the last thing I'll touch on, sometimes our dreams can, where does our imagination go, when fantasy, gets a grip on us, right? So having aspiration, I'm not talking about, necessarily, sexual fantasies or anything like that. I'm talking about aspirations are fine. Our dreams, dream big, right? And all those type of things. But when those dreams and aspirations become bigger than our relationship with God,
Yeah.
if our dreams of becoming, a first round draft pick or a winner of, is The Voice even a thing anymore?
I don't know.
Winner of The
Probably.
Voice, or a great businessman or a politician or some leader, community leader, if all those things have greater importance on our lives and our relationship with God, then that becomes our idol, right?
Yeah.
Even though it's good things to be a good business leader, to be a good community leader, these are good things, right? And, if you want to be something in your field, those are all good things. But if the pursuit of that gets in the way of our relationship with the Lord, then that becomes, an idol in our life, and that's what we have to deal with. So the question is our motivation to give God, or is our motivation in those things to give God glory, or is it for us to achieve our own glory and our own fame and our own fortune, and ourselves become our own idol? So,
and one just real quick, one kind of clue of where your heart is, if you're unsure, is what if God calls you midway through to switch and do something else? Would you be able to release it? Would you be able to let it go?
Yeah.
That's kind of a good, what are you willing to kind of, or are you like, no, I've got to get this, whatever it is.
Yeah, absolutely. So next week, we're going to focus on sort of the things that give us pleasure, the temple of pleasure in our lives. And that could be lots of things, right? A lot of people always jump to sexual pleasure, but there's a lot of pleasure that comes in from entertainment or family, or whatever the case is, right? But if our pursuit of a good time, if our pursuit of pleasure outweighs our pursuit of God, then that becomes a temple, a place that we will sacrifice. The thing is the question we need to ask ourselves: what are we willing to sacrifice in order to achieve X? And that's what we always have to ask ourselves. I might get into some of my personal walk, but over the next few weeks, but I achieved the highest level that I could achieve in business from in my field. But when I got there, it was such a letdown.
Yeah.
So it doesn't always bring the pleasure that we think that it brings. So
that's called a teaser, folks, for next week.
Yeah, that's called a teaser. So, all right. Well, hey, that's good. So
you better get up to church.
Yeah, I got a few minutes, so I got to get my voice warmed up for Travis's high notes. So, all right. Well, thanks everyone. If you want, download the ebook or buy the physical copy. Follow along with us. There's a lot of great material in this that we won't be able to cover in the next 4 weeks, but looking forward to spending time with you. So have a great morning, and hopefully we'll see you online or in person. All right.